over-the-counter archery season early versus late. There are pros and cons to each season, and I get asked these questions a lot, so I just want to go through with you guys. If you have any questions on that, feel free to hit me up, but hopefully I'll answer most of them now. Start with the early season. So early season is late August. It's kind of like hunting antelope, bow hunting antelope, right? It's very, very hot. No matter where you go in Arizona, it's going to be in the 90s, probably hotter. If the monsoons are happening in August, which they very well may be going on, which in Arizona the monsoons happen middle of June to middle of August, sometimes end of August, sometimes even into September. And the monsoons basically, it rains every single day, every afternoon. You can set your clock to it. That really affects the hunting, both good and bad. So plan on very, very hot weather during that August time period, that early season hunt. That is one of the main cons. The monsoons can be a con, but they also can be a pro. They can be an advantage because it'll rain every day and cool everything off, keep the weather nice and mild. Maybe it won't get up to 90 degrees that day. It will keep the animals on their feet a little longer just because of the cool weather. Animals like to feed generally after it rains as well, just because they get more moisture with their grass and as they browse. However, that can really, really hurt you if it rains every day and you're sitting in a water hole. So be mindful of that, because early season is, in my opinion, the best season to target a buck, a big buck, and kill it with a bow. For two reasons. Number one, they haven't been hunted in 7 months. These bucks are by themselves, typically bachelored up, and they are relaxed. They are in their summer feeding pattern. They're in their velvet, and they are very, very easy to pattern. That makes them really susceptible to the bow hunter, especially if they figure out what water hole these bucks are using, considering that it's dry enough to be sitting water every day. That being said, though, these bucks are still doing the same thing. They've been doing the same thing probably since May. You know, going to the same feeding, going to the same bedding areas, and so as a bow hunter, you really want to try to minimize the variables. And as we know by bow hunting anything in the rut, the does or the cows can be a variable that we have no idea how to react with, because when a bunch of does see you during the rut, all bets are off. Same goes for archery elk hunting in the rut as well. So I just want to touch on that a little bit. As a bow hunter hunting for a trophy animal, the early archery season can be very, very effective. That being said, you'll have to deal with the hot weather. It's very, very long days, very, very short window of movement, and very early mornings. So the sun gets up like at 5:30, you're going to be up at 3:30, you're going to be glassing at 5:30, you are going to be hunting all morning, and so by about 10 a.m., if you haven't had a buck bedded down, or if you're not on a stalk, chances are you're probably going to go back to camp and take a nap until 4 p.m. And these bucks will get up later on during the day, typically around 5:30 or 6, and they'll be on their feet for that last light period, which does not give you a lot of time to stalk, but it may give you a chance to scout for tomorrow's adventure, maybe in a different area. So early season, really long days, hot weather, but the bucks are bachelored up, the bucks are relaxed and very patternable. Also, the X factor is there's typically not a lot of hunting pressure in Arizona during that early season. There's not a lot of people come in and bombard Arizona's units for that early season tag, simply because the later season tag works better for other states when nothing is going on. So in December and January, when the Arizona over-the-counter archery tag opens up again, typically most of the hunting is done in other states, so people have a little bit more time to come down and hunt that over-the-counter archery season because there's really nothing else open. So that's the gist of the early season, guys. Phenomenal time to hunt. If you know what you're getting into, if you're planning on dressing for the warmer weather, wet weather, patterning bucks, sitting water, patterning buck, bachelor herds of bucks. So all that stuff is something to come into play. And we know a lot of these deer, go to the same places every year. So unlike the rut, which can be a little bit unpredictable where a buck is from time to time, typically the bucks are found in the same kind of areas every year. Grassy hillsides, again, they are in velvet, so they don't really want to be brushed up too hard and mess with their antlers because it hurts. So they're a little bit more out in the open, in the alpine or in the lower meadows and feeding. Again, making stalks very, very plannable and predictable for a bow hunter. Let's change it to the December hunt. We're going to do the December, January kind of same thing. So we know what the early season is about. Now we can go to the December, January season. So depending on the unit, this can be a rut hunt in December. Not all units in Arizona are, number one, open to mule deer and whitetail at the same time, or are Coues deer. Anytime you see whitetail on a tag or in the regulations for Arizona, it is Coues deer. They are a subspecies of the eastern white-tailed deer. There is no eastern white-tailed deer found in Arizona. So just so you know that as you read, some people ask me that, hey, do you guys have whitetail? Yeah, we do, but they're considered Coues deer, which are part of the 5 subspecies of deer found in North America. The later season can be a rut hunt, like I was mentioning. Sometimes it can be good in December because the bucks are not in full rut. They're kind of in that pre-rut stages where they're, again, bachelor herding up again, fighting with each other, looking for deer, looking for does, and then looking for any does that are coming into estrus first. So they're kind of doing their rounds, and they can be very patternable then too because they're not tied to some does. I've watched bucks come out of the same little area, little bedding ground, go, and what they'll do is they'll check groups of does. So they'll go around, they'll check doe, groups of does, and they'll check on them. The bigger bucks will kind of keep checking on them until they're ready. And in the meantime, you actually might see some smaller bucks with these does on them. But the big bucks, the mature bucks, will wait till they expend their energy and they fight, and they sometimes risk their lives to breed these deer until these deer are actually ready to be bred. So you can kind of pattern a big buck, and we have done that, and we've actually killed a really nice buck doing that because we knew what he was doing every day. We watched him for a couple days, and we finally figured him out and got him killed. So that's one thing. The December hunt can be a little bit difficult because if you're hunting in areas where there is Coues deer, there can be rifle hunters in the mix with you. So there's rifle Coues tags at the end of those seasons. So sometimes you can have rifle hunts in there that may kind of throw you off. It's not hardcore rut season, typically. What I like to divide the state is kind of north of Phoenix, south of Phoenix. So if you're hunting north of Phoenix, plan for the rut to start a little bit earlier up there in some of those northern Arizona units. So December can be a really productive time of year to hunt rutting deer in those northern units, where as in the units south of Phoenix, they're really not going to see a ton of rutting activity, Coues deer or mule deer in the southern units. Understand that the northern half of Arizona definitely is a different terrain and different rut habitats, different rut patterns than the southern half. It can be very, very different hunts. Central to northern Arizona is pine trees, junipers, rolling hills, high elevation, 5,000 feet and above, while Phoenix and south is saguaro cactus, mesquite, palo verdes, ocotillos, oaks, and typically your elevations are 3,000 feet and less. Not to mention the Scott Islands if you're going up chasing Coues deer in higher elevation stuff. From the Superstitions down to the Catalinas and Santa Ritas and stuff like that. So that the elevation definitely goes up. It can be up at 7,000-8,000 feet if you're in the southern half of the unit or southern half of the state, but that's typically Coues deer only stuff. So basically, guys, what obviously is the advantages to hunting in that late rut season is it's rut season. That's it. So you will have these deer that are out and about rutting. The weather is cooler. The days are short. The deer are pretty much on their feet all day long. Our hunting days usually start around 7 a.m. and they get done around 5:30. It's very short windows. The days are short. Sun comes up late, goes down early. Deer on their feet almost all day long. Bucks are out and about and actually visible, and you can see them. You can see what they're doing. There's a lot of does around, and there can be a lot of other hunters. Just depends on the area, depends on the timing. So we never really know about that, and you can't really plan for any of that stuff. So so that's a huge advantage. Is you've got the rut on your side, you've got movement on your side, you've got cooler weather on your side. As a bow hunter, you need every opportunity you can get. So when deer and specifically bucks are a little bit less wary in the rut season, and they will disregard danger and humans a little bit more because their focus is on the doe in heat, gives the bow hunter that chance to slip into 60, 50, 40 yards and try to get an arrow in him. So definitely that is on your side. Water holes can be very effective in that late season as well. So just because it's cold out doesn't mean these deer won't drink. Sometimes what I found is in the rut season they drink more because they're always moving and getting pushed and walking around, hiking these hills, that they do hit water quite frequently, even when the weather is cool outside in Arizona. So obviously the disadvantages are you have a lot of does that are looking out for these bucks. The rut is unpredictable, so you may be hunting a buck one day and he may be 5 miles away the next day. So you have the unpredictability of the rut. They can get up and run at any time. I've seen it happen. You won't spook them. You won't do anything wrong, and the buck will just decide, hey, I'm taking these does and I'm going to push them 2 miles away. So the unpredictability is not in the bow hunter's favor, although sometimes it can be, where you can kind of get in their bubble 150 yards and maybe that buck is going to chase another buck right at you. That can happen, and we've killed deer like that as well. So you never know, but typically the unpredictability of deer and their patterning is not in favor of the bow hunter. So that's something to keep in mind. A little bit of hunting pressure can happen during these times, especially on the weekends in December and January, where people are coming out and taking advantage of this awesome over-the-counter archery season that we have and seeing some deer and just, you know, doing their thing. And so you got to be aware that there may be some other hunters around, and just to kind of plan what to do if you see other hunters, and just be ethical and that kind of stuff. So that can also come into play. Also during these seasons, there's a Javelina archery season that starts January 1st, usually runs through the 20th to 21st or whatever. Usually runs a full 3 weeks. So you may have people that are Javelina hunting as well that really don't really care about mule deer or coos deer, but they really want to get their Javelina. One of the reasons why they would do that is because if you shoot a deer in January, you are not eligible to hunt deer again in Arizona. You are allowed 1 deer per annum. So whether that be a coos deer or mule deer, you're only allowed to harvest 1 deer annually. Advantages and disadvantages of each season. It's understanding what kind of fits your style, what also fits your schedule, and what may be something you'd like to try. I think all of these units, all of these seasons, all the situations are great to maybe just engage in the bow hunting, spot and stalking game in Arizona, whether it be totally DIY or drop camp or guided hunts. There are options out there for everybody, and it's a great place to start bow hunting and just understanding how spot stalking, glassing, and planning stalks actually works, guys. So hit me up if you have any questions, or comment below if you've got some stuff to add. I'd love to hear about it, and I'll get more information out there later on as well. And we're going to talk about how to really DIY hunt Arizona. It's something I really want to talk about and kind of clear up some misconceptions. So, all right, guys, hope you liked the video. We'll talk soon.